LSU for the second straight season, undefeated through 5 games in conference play. LSU 5-0 will tip it off at 6 o'clock tonight versus the Gators. This is a big one. A lot of eyeballs will be on Baton Rouge tonight.
Yeah, it feels like, like I said, I feel like it's almost it's perfect timing as far as trying to turn the page from football season and start to dive into the next portion of the sporting calendar. Sheldon Mickles has a really good write-up in The Advocate today that point out a couple of things that I don't know that I fully realized, Jordy. LSU right now has won 22 of its past 24 SEC games. I mean, they are hot if you're going back to last year.
That road record.
12 road wins in a row. They've been incredible. And a lot of them are close games. It's just that LSU, and this, I believe, all goes back to Will Wade, what he highlights, how he trains them for pressure moments physically, mentally, really stressing this idea of the 6-minute game. All the games are close, but LSU just consistently seems to come out on top. That was maybe except for a couple times last year against who? Against Florida. Mickles also reminds me of how good that 3-game series was last season, right? Each team winning on the road in overtime during the regular season, and then, of course, there was the SEC tournament game where Florida wins with that last-second 3 with about a second left. So these are two spectacular teams. Right now, Florida's 4-1 in the SEC. Yeah, they lost to Mizzou, but they just beat the hell out of Auburn the other day. LSU's 5-0. It's in the PMAC. The winner will be in first place in the SEC when the game is over. And so, yeah, like if you maybe are like me and you've been so football focused and you haven't paid attention to what's been going on in the court lately, like this is the perfect opportunity to just dive headfirst in and figure out what this, like I haven't even watched this year's LSU team that much. I've watched a few games here or there, a few portions of games, but this is going to be my first time where I'm going to sit down and beginning to end, I'll be enjoying this one.
It's probably going to be a pretty good time to start watching, and I think Wade is going to be. He probably likes the fact that the fan base has been so involved and so kind of smothered by football that you'll wake up and see that the basketball team's undefeated in league play, and they're stepping into a big conference game tonight. So I expect the Maravich Center to be pretty packed. I mean, I think that people will come out. I think it's a draw. I'll be there. I love the tip time at 6 o'clock, but I think that. From an interest standpoint, when you look at these two teams play, if you've paid attention to the league, and I think a lot of people are like you, where they haven't not only not paid attention to their own team that's playing in their backyard, but really to the overall conference. Conference is down from the standpoint of just the overall competition throughout the league. If you're watching and like kind of looking around the league, I mean, Florida's probably the overall from a talent standpoint. Is it Florida,
LSU, Auburn, and Kentucky? I mean, are those the four?
And then Florida went into Auburn and thrashed them by 20 on Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, a week ago, you would have thought that Auburn was the best team in the league. Kentucky and Florida have been in that discussion, and LSU's the only undefeated team that we're talking about. So for Will Wade still to be figuring some things out and going through a period where you lose a guy like Charles Manning Jr., who was a really confident piece for the coaching staff. They knew that they got in Manning. I mean, we heard him talk about Manning in the preseason. And in the summertime, he's going to be out a month with foot surgery that he sustained after the Texas A&M game last week. So, but since then, you've seen some guys start to come on. I mean, Andre Hyatt has been a guy that started to play well. Marshall Graves is getting some quality minutes. He stepped into that Texas A&M game after Manning went down and gave really quality minutes. And one stat that Sheldon Mickles provides in this morning's Advocate that has really been not a turning point, but kind of a change in identity with the personnel is LSU's ability to shoot the ball behind the arc over the last couple of games. They were 2 of 21 versus Mississippi State a couple of weeks back in the Maravich Center. Since then, they have shot 22 of 59 from behind the arc, and a lot of that has been some of the new faces. Andre Hyatt has stepped in and hit some pretty big shots. Marshall Graves hit some big shots on the road. And then you heard Wade talking about Marlon Taylor, and they didn't know what to expect from Taylor, a guy who they sent home from the Texas A&M trip because of a setback in the foot. Then he comes back and plays well against Ole Miss. But to me, the change has been in Javonte Smart. And I think
he's been shooting way better, too.
It's not only the way that he's shooting the ball, but it's the mentality in which he's playing. I think we talked about this a couple of weeks back, and we were still in football mode, but one of the things that jumped out when watching LSU play was that Javonte was a little uncomfortable as being the primary ball handler, as being the point guard, but on the floor, he was out of his game. I mean, and you see comfort spots for guys out there after you watch them play basketball for a long time. And I've been watching Javonte play since he was at Parkview when he was in 8th grade before he transferred to Scotlandville and became, Javonte Smart, the big-time player. And he's always been more comfortable off the ball. And this year they've asked him to be the primary ball handler, and that's kind of like taking him out of his game. He wasn't even talking trash. I mean, he wasn't getting in the other guy's head. And since the last week, you've seen him kind of get into that mode, and he's kind of starting to play that way. And you're starting to see, as he goes, LSU's going to kind of follow. Now, I think their player is obviously Skylar Mays. When it gets to crunch time, everybody's looking for 4, and he's been really consistent, providing that moment where he can lift you over the top. But to me, the difference in this team over the last week and a half has been the play of Javonte Smart. Him getting his confidence back. You mentioned the way that he's shooting it.
And then we asked Wade about the turnovers. I think it was last week. Like, the numbers are crazy. His assist turnover was basically 1-to-1 at the beginning of the year, and I think now it's creeping up to like 3-to-1.
And Smart's a guy that when he's on, when he's dialed in, when he's checked in, he makes everybody around him better. So here's Wade. Wade had a press conference yesterday morning. He was talking about some of the keys to defeating Florida or competing with Florida tonight.
Big game tomorrow. Obviously, stepping up in weight class, playing Florida. They're playing extremely well, coming off probably one of their better outings, maybe their best outing of the year. I hadn't watched all their games, but to do what they did to Auburn, especially defensively, and then to be able to score like they have on Auburn. So, they're a preseason top 10 in the country for a reason. They're an excellent team, and our games with them have always been very, very good. I think all 3 of them last year went to overtime. They were all very, very close games. This is going to be one of those games where all the details matter, all the little things matter, and we've got to do a very good job of honing in on the little things and handling the details if we want to give ourselves an opportunity to win.
Yeah, so Florida right now, one reason why you mentioned LSU shooting better. Florida, if you look at conference-only stats, Florida's averaging 80 per game in conference play. LSU's averaging 80 per game in the year. Florida's hitting 38% of their threes. So, yeah, I think you can expect tonight to potentially be very high scoring. One name that Sheldon Mickles points out is the power forward transfer from Virginia Tech, 6'10", Kerry Blackshear. He was the preseason pick for player of the year. He's averaging 15 and 9. So who he's doing is the reason why I bring up Blackshear, Jordy, if you just look at the starting lineups, LSU's been so damn good on the boards this year, right? Yeah. Specifically the offensive boards. They have been cleaning up nearly 40% of all their shots. LSU's getting an offensive rebound on. But when you look at tonight's lineup, Florida's bringing a couple 6'10" guys to bear, whereas LSU, Trendon Watford, he's your outside of Trendon Watford. Who is it? Timmy Williams at like 6'6", Darius Days. It's like, how do you think that LSU makes up for that size disadvantage?
Well, I think that the way that they've been getting to the glass, and Wade said it last week, was with their athleticism. It's not necessarily their size that is creating their ability to get after the rebounds. I think it's their athleticism. You think about somebody like Emmett Williams, you think about Trendon Watford, you almost think of Darius Days. Those guys are really high caliber athletes as well. And like Wade said, he was telling his offense, just get it on the glass. Get shots up and give LSU an opportunity to get to the glass, get to the boards because of their athleticism. And what they're saying is they believe when the shot's in the air that they have better athletes than you do and that they can beat you to the spot. Now tonight, they've got to out-athlete bigger athletes. You know what I mean? Like Wade said, they're stepping up in class. This Florida team is not necessarily the competition that you've been playing over the past couple of weeks. And this is a heavyweight fight. When you're talking about LSU being 5-0, Florida being 4-1, Florida being in the preseason top 10, LSU winning the league last year, being in the top of the league right now. Fresh out of football, and still a little foggy off of what LSU accomplished and still riding high off of the championship parade and celebration. This is a big-time college basketball game in town tonight. I agree.
Go pack it out. Go pack out the
in the Maravich Center tonight because this one will be a fun one to watch.